don't care. No. That's what I was telling you earlier. Jeff said he moved, but I don't care. I can move.
Was there a pack? I don't know. I'm not sure what the dog in the fight is.
Mr. Mayor, the meeting has begun.
Thank you. We just missing Simon, right? Okay. So I'll call this meeting to order. This is our committee of the whole for Monday, March 7th. The only item that we have for discussion tonight is infiltration and inflow reduction program. We have 20 minutes set aside for that tonight. That'll start us off with City Engineer Dave Wiki and Water Reclamation Manager Mike Nyman. So the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll kick us off here, and this is our presentation for the North Cedar Heights area road reconstruction and our Park Drive infiltration and inflow project. So just to kind of, can I hear okay? All right.
Just a little closer so we can hear you better.
All right, hopefully that's better. So if council recalls, I think it was back in January, we had our presentation of our pavement management system where we talked about this North Cedar Heights area neighborhood and the 5-year plan that we developed at that time to reconstruct these roads and phase them out over that 5-year period. So, you know, the question comes up, so why do we need to reconstruct these roads to begin with? When we evaluated these roads, you know, they're very narrow roads, they're windy, you know, they average between 13 to 19 feet. There's no curb on the roads, there's very little in the way of stormwater control. So stormwater has a tendency just to kind of sheet flow over the road and get into the ravines. And then in addition to that, the roadways themselves sort of meander a little bit in and out, so we want to reestablish that roadway network within the established right-of-ways. And then one of the other big things is, you know, this neighborhood consists of approximately 140 homes, and it's our most problematic area as far as our sanitary sewer shed is concerned. So the Park Drive lift station services this area, and what happens is during high wet weather I&I events, inflow and infiltration events, is that lift station actually gets inundated, and we have had instances in the past where we've had SSOs, which are sanitary sewer overflows. So, you know, at the time of reconstruction, when we reconstruct these roads, we're going to be looking at, you know, doing these home investigations to see if illegal connections can exist and if we can get those taken care of. We plan on starting this project this year, actually, year one with the reconstruction. And like I said, it's a 5-year project, and, you know, from there we'll be wrapping up in 2026 if we stay on schedule. As we move through this 5-year process, some of the actual order of the reconstruction may change. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike now, and he's going to walk you through some I&I.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate your time tonight to talk about a problem that a lot of cities in the country and especially in Iowa have, and that is I&I. And I&I is just stands for infiltration and inflow of clean water into the sanitary sewer system. And by clean water, I'm talking about either groundwater or rainwater that gets into the sanitary system and is not in the storm sewer system. They're two separate systems. This can get into the sanitary system through infiltration, like cracks in manholes, cracks in the main, things like that. And then there's direct inflow. That would be a pipe connected to the sanitary system where clean water that should go to the stormwater is coming directly into the sanitary sewer system, and that's typically from either sump pumps or footing drains from homes. Sometimes can be a cross connection where a storm line was mistakenly or inadvertently added to the sanitary system. As you can imagine, during really wet weather, this increases our flow in the sanitary sewer system, our collection system. And that will overload our pipes and our manholes and our pump station. As David said, it can overflow in those areas, and it can also back up into homes. The Park Drive pump station in particular cannot always handle all this water, and we have had instances of SSOs or overflows at that pump station during extreme wet weather. This next slide is just our normal flow is a little bit of the detail of Park Drive lift station. Our normal flow there on any given day is typically 25 to 30,000 gallons, and that's for 140 homes. And in extreme wet weather, we can have up to 30 times that, or 900,000 gallons in a single day. And that is, for the most part, is coming from the private sector, not the public sector, through footing drains and sump pumps. This little schematic here shows you the orange house on the right is how things should be connected up. It shows the footing drains, and the sump pump goes directly to the sanitary. The purple house has all kinds of issues and can kind of show you a little bit what's going on. There's cracks in the pipe for infiltration, and then the footing drains and it looks like the downspouts are connected to the sanitary system where they don't belong as well. So as I said, these when all this water gets into our system, it can cause backups in homes or overflows. We work under a permit system that's issued by the DNR under the authority of the US EPA. And under a permit, there's no gray area. These SSOs are prohibited. And these overflows that we've had within our system have drawn a lot of attention from the EPA and the IDNR in the past. Our inspections each time from the US EPA or the DNR, they've always required that we take action to eliminate this clean water in our system, which causes these overflows. These overflows are a public health issue. They can be in people's basements or contact in the street where it's overflowing a manhole, so exposure to untreated wastewater is a public health issue. So we have taken a lot of action on the private side. We've done a lot of stuff in this area and throughout the city. We've been lining sanitary sewer lines, the city's mains, for over 25 years. We've rehabbed manholes, and in Park Drive collection area, we've put a new lift station in 2013, 2014 with a new force main, and that can handle most of the water that gets there, except in extreme wet weather. The peak flows, the hourly peak flows, that lift station cannot quite handle all that water. This is the area, as David mentioned, that's being reconstructed, so it's a good time to address the issue in this area. Park Drive lift station is on the north there. The collection system runs from Mandalay to Timber Drive and picks up a little bit of Grand, and it's everything north there. As David mentioned, this is a really old system. Some of these lines were put in 1921, but all but a very few of these lines have been rehabilitated by the city. So we've lined these, we've grouted service lines to help the infiltration on our system to be reduced dramatically. The problem on the private side still remains. We've not been able to do that. That's a difficult problem to address. One thing we did in 2015 is we did a sump pump removal program. You may remember that, some of you. And that we just went through the city. Sump pumps were not allowed to be hooked up to the sanitary sewer system after 1969, and we inspected all homes after 1969, made sure that they were in compliance. A pretty simple program to go through. We had a high success rate. So in order to do something like this, what we'd like to do is to change the ordinance to eliminate that 1969 date and make discharges from sump pumps and footing drains illicit or illegal throughout the city. So all homes in the city of Cedar Falls would not be allowed to discharge that clean water into our sanitary sewer system. So that would be the ordinance change. So how to apply that ordinance? We have a proposed policy. First, I'd say that we don't have any intention of doing this citywide. This is to address the issue in Park Drive, which has been, again, the area that has drawn a lot of attention from the EPA and the DNR. What we would like to do is remove these footing drains and sump pumps in this area during street construction. This would happen during street construction only. And then it would also, the ordinance change would make any of these connections where this clean water goes into the system illicit or illegal. So that would include footing drains, foundation, or sump pumps, roof drains, etc. So the way we'd go about this is engineering and water reclamation will coordinate these inspections where illicit or illegal connections are suspected, and we'll be focusing on the Park Drive. We know there's a lot of connections where this water is coming in. The reason that we do it during road construction is this area in particular does not have much for subdrain or storm sewers, so we need to give the residents a place to put this clean water. And so it can make its way to the river untreated like it belongs. And then there'd be some constraints on that when they would have a time frame to do that, the 60 days after the end of road construction, so that storm sewer is in place. And then it would be, of course, inspected through the city inspection services. So this is a big deal for a lot of homeowners. It's would be some pretty big changes. So we propose financial assistance for these homes. The building owners would be reimbursed up to $4,000. That comes from a little work from Luke Andreessen did some cost estimates, and that would cover that for the vast majority of homes. And then again, there's that 60 days and to have that done after construction is completed, and then they'd have to submit an application to be reimbursed for that. So similar to the sump pump removal program, if homeowners in this area would be homeowners, not commercial, if they didn't change their the connection with sump pumps, there'd be a $100 surcharge per month. We have that with the sump pump program. And same way with the sump pump program, if we're not allowed to inspect the home, then we assume that there's an illegal connection, and we'd go forward with that $100 a month surcharge.
So it's not a fine, it's not a penalty?
No, it's a well-established that the water that comes from sump pumps would cost the city more than $100 a month to treat. All this water, this clean water, the big problem is it needs to be treated. Once we've contaminated all that groundwater, that's the way to look at it. We've taken all that clean water, we've contaminated it with raw sewage. It does get moved to the treatment plant, it gets pumped, it gets treated, it goes through the whole process. If we just increase our pump stations and move it to the treatment plant, then we have overflows there. So that's why it's such a big issue for the EPA to focus on getting that water removed. So the next steps would be for the ordinance change, the readings there, you can see that. And then the in-home inspections for this area would start in April, May. That would coincide with the construction in the area. That's really all I have. I'm happy to address questions if Ron or Chase or Luke or David have anything that I've probably missed. Happy to address any questions or any comments that anybody has.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I know in communities that have had the sump pump programs with reimbursement, it seems that the contractor's bid becomes the maximum that the city will pay. So are we going through a process to evaluate the bids or, the projects to get them in a certain range of price? Because I believe a nearby community had $1,500 recently in the last 5 years. So how are we going to?
Yeah, I believe that was kind of after the fact as they've got their program rolled out. We tried to do that up front, and approximately, I want to say 4 months ago, we got bids from 3 different plumbers, and then we took the average of those 3 bids, which came out to be approximately $3,500, so that's where we set the $4,000 amount. And keep in mind, as time goes on in this program, it may be 4 or 5 years from now when we're doing something similar and costs go up, we'd still maintain that $4,000 amount until it becomes problematic to where it won't cover the homeowner's cost to make that disconnection.
So what I'm getting at is if the position of the home, footing drain, you can just shoot a line right into a ravine, or is all the clean water going to be funneled into a new subdrain, and, or, you know, in my home, I have a ravine behind my house in Royal Oaks. There is no, it goes out to the ravine. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but
But for the most part, we would like to get it into the infrastructure, city infrastructure. If it's absolutely impossible and it's a scenario like you just described, obviously if the costs are lower than the $4,000 amount, we will only reimburse what they've submitted on their application to be reimbursed.
well, what I'm kind of getting at is, it appears when I think about this area of town and the lay of the land, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the footing tile just to go right out into a ravine. And you're going to sump pump that up into the subdrain on the street possibly, or?
If we're trying to put the infrastructure on the street, and it would require an inspection upon their removal. So if they, when we go in there to make that disconnection, we'll have building inspection
Well,
services.
Yeah, but if they're
That
not connected currently to the sanitary sewer, and the footing drain is already draining away from the property, and the downspouts are draining out to a ravine with a long hose, or those can stay? Is that,
Those would remain.
yeah, so you're just talking about the ones you're disconnecting from the sanitary?
That would have a cross connection. Correct?
Okay, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I understand this right, this is pretty much like what we did in 2015, except that before it was after 69 and now it's pre-1969?
Very
Yeah.
similar, correct?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Cyrus.
wouldn't it be a good idea if we just had that area for now be the area we're looking at instead of making this citywide, since this is getting the reconstruction? To just blanket the whole city could really bring up some high costs everywhere else. Right now, that area that you're looking at is gonna have the road construction, which makes it an easy time to hook on, which I'm in favor of the city paying that. Wouldn't it be a better idea to just to have that one isolated place where we have the new road construction
Yep.
instead of just blanketing the whole city and then throwing the hammer down on some people where it's even harder than the 4,000 to get to a
We
storm
did.
sewer?
We did have a lot of internal conversation around that, and that's kind of where the policy stemmed from. We wanted to make it specific to where it's only road reconstruction in problematic areas. On any other street where we know there's no issues and we're reconning the roadway, we're not going to be moving forward with any type of program like this. It's really focused in the Park Drive lift station for the next 5 years.
So you can just make it comply just to this area?
That was the purpose of the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, and,
Just-
yeah, or Councilor Schultz.
Is this how we are doing our hard plumbing for our new developments?
Correct. After the 1969 dates, when I believe the plumbing code changed, so any new home built now does not have a cross connection. It's required to go into the correct system.
But did they hard plumb it to the storm sewer, or if, to Daryl's point, if we could do the downspouts and have the sump pump go far enough out in the yard, that was acceptable?
That's still permitted on a new home, if that's what you're speaking of.
Also, I think there's some people up in that area that did this work before we started doing this planning. Have they applied, or can they apply?
That would be conversations we could have with them if they would still have that documentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Just another segue off of that. I know in the College Hill area, there's a pretty good area missing a network of storm sewers, but yet the streets are going to need some repairs. We choose our streets to repair based on the availability of adding the storm sewer and the subdrains.
I would say 95% of the streets being reconstructed have subdrain behind the back of curb. Anytime there's no storm sewer network, we're always looking at ways to extend storm sewer
Get it
in
in
that
there.
area. And I know over the last 5 years, we've been extending it in that Olive, Iowa Street area that you're referring to.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
Other thoughts? Questions? Okay, so not looking for a motion tonight, just providing information, correct?
Sounds good.
So, thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate the information and look forward to further progress on this.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so that was our only item on the committee of the whole, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned until 5 minutes from now, so 7:25. Let's come back and do our regular meeting.
Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.